Recording. So, any of you guys doing anything fun for Halloween?
Homework.
Yep.
Lots of it.
My plans are more for tomorrow when I'm gonna buy all that candy.
Yeah, the sale candy. My favorite.
Heck yeah.
Yep.
I'm already looking forward to it.
This is my kind of showing of Halloweenness of being Waldo today because it was my costume from last year. So I was like, I could really fun.
Looks good.
Thank you. So today, I want to mostly focus on those 5 articles that he assigned for Thursday. And so I'm going to put you guys in groups to discuss them and start talking about them just so you remember what they're kind of about, and then we can move on to a more detailed discussion using the study guides. Okay? Okay, I will let me split you into your random rooms. And all right, and I will come get you at the 6:15. Sound good? All right, cool. Off you go into the darkness. Unmute myself. Hey, Elizabeth. Sorry.
Hi.
Everybody's in little assigned rooms and stuff like that. So I'm gonna assign you to one. Okay.
Okay.
Now we'll wait for everybody to join us. Okay, welcome back, everyone.
Hello.
So let me share the screen right here, and let us first talk about the new map of American politics. So, can somebody tell me what that article was about in general?
It was like at first it talked about how like it was like mainly Republican, like conservatives, and then it talked about how basically like at first it was white, and then like
What's going on with these conservatives and stuff like that? Where's our setting?
like Orange County, like Idaho.
Yeah, so we have Republicans who are in Orange County, and now they're moving to Idaho. And why are they moving?
Just basically kind of like this guy, Rankin.
Mm-hmm.
He kind of just left to kind of start something. To kind of start like to try to like kind of influence the place. That's kind of what I got.
What was wrong with where he was? What was wrong with Orange County?
It was, I think, I would say immigration had to do with it.
Yeah, immigration had to do with it. And what was happening to Rankin's neighborhoods in his eyes?
It was mainly white at first, and then when immigration started, it was happening. It was like there was a statistic. It was like less than 57% white.
Yeah, and
like
so
the idea of like conservatives and Republicans was like, I'm assuming, slowly fading.
Because as you read, minorities are more likely to be Democrats.
Yeah.
And have democratic values, while whites are more conservative. And so because they became a minority in their neighborhood, they felt like their ideas weren't being represented, so they moved to Idaho. And this is called the white flight. And so somebody other than Betty, can you tell me what happened? What was Rankin doing in Idaho?
He was like bringing all the I don't specifically remember, but he was like bringing a bunch of like Republican movement there, because I guess he started doing like different not activities, but being an activist for Republicans, so people started moving there for him.
Yeah, because he was like, oh, okay, so this strong Republicans going to a different state and bringing those values and carrying them. So if we want our values represented, we should move with him, because that's where our representatives are going to truly represent us, kind of thing. And so how does this change in demographics change the party strength in different states? Oh, you're muted, Betty.
Well, like, for example, like, I'm just kind of connecting the dots. Like, right now, we think of California, and, like, they basically say there's no way in heck it's ever going to be Republican.
Yeah, because our large cities are really Democratic. Yeah.
And so this was talking about how the Republicans, like the hardcore Republicans, were following this guy and were leaving to Idaho. And so it's kind of like, it changes, the demographically, because, like, that's kind of how the states, I'm assuming, were being shifted, that were like the party selection.
Yeah.
Because, like, those that really wanted to be Republican, like, if I wanted to be really hardcore Republican, I think I would move to some place like Idaho myself, because that way I feel like my vote counts more than if I stay in California.
Yeah, exactly. And so what's happening to the states by, like, this kind of polarization of demographics? Like, if everybody who believes in the same thing are living in one state, what's happening there? What's happening to public opinion in that state? Is it diversified, or is it all the same?
No, it's the same.
Yeah. And So besides Betty, can you kind of say why that might be a disadvantage for a state? Because if you only have one ideology, and let's say there's only one fox in the hen house, what's going on? Because remember the fox analogy that Professor Friedman used to describe politicians?
People can be like taken advantage of. Like, I don't know like how to explain it. Like, because what he was saying was like the people are like the sheep and they're the wolves and they only like care about themselves. They want to like do what like they want and don't care about what the people want.
And remember the competition between the wolves led to the betterment of the sheep.
Mm-hmm. So no one will be questioning the political choices that people are making if everyone just has the same political views. No one's going to say, why are we doing this? Whatever. They're just going to be going with the flow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. And so policies that could really disadvantage citizens bar in favor of the politicians are going to be easily passed because everyone's like, yeah, okay, yeah, we're all on the same page. I'm not going to look at what you're doing very critically because I'm like, hey, you're on the same team as me.
Mm-hmm.
And so policy and citizens are really damaged by that. And I mean, I don't know, like just culturally, what do you think happens if there's just like one idea in a place?
Cultures migrate. Like I would say people move. That's what happened, I would say, to the Republicans in California that this reading described.
Mm-hmm.
They were getting taken over by, the new cultures that were coming in, the immigrants, and they didn't like that. So they followed someone that they believed in.
Yeah, instead of like kind of creating a hybrid culture and meshing things together, they just decided, oh, I want to keep my culture separate and everything and enclosed. And I mean, in both in policy and in culture, that leads to less diversified ideas. And so then we don't really get the best ideas because we don't have a competition of ideas going on. And I don't know, do you think that by having kind of these polarized states, that's going to increase the amount of partisanship we already see within political parties today and that polarization between the two parties? Do you think that'll increase?
Yeah. Because people will only be seeing their views of whatever state they're in if it's super Republican or super Democratic. So they won't have an idea of the opposing views.
Yeah, because then they'll start being like, oh, this is us,
Mm-hmm.
that's them. So I don't know about those people. I can't really work with those people.
Mm-hmm.
I think it also does it like I agree with her, but at the same time, like I agree with that part because like I know that like my main mindset is like, it's gonna be Democratic. California, my state's gonna be Democratic, regardless of what I pick. It's gonna be Democratic. But then there's some of those people, like there's still room for like people that think differently. Because like I know for my county, they're all for Trump.
Mm-hmm.
Ironically, but they're like made out of farmers, and they're like farmers for Trump.
Yeah.
But they still like they're still so for Trump. They're not afraid to show it, but they know they're gonna lose. They know that the California is gonna lose. So at the same time, there's that slight like people that still believe in their own, their own ideas. They still believe what they want to believe, regardless of what the majority is what's gonna happen actually.
Yeah, I mean, and that's mostly because they're more tied to the land than they are to a political ideology and wanting to fight that, and so they rather stick to the land and stick to their ideology. But I was just saying, of course, there's always going to be these little pockets, but I'm talking about the majority and how that affects. But you do bring up a good point, and I myself, because I come from the Fresno Bakersfield area, it's hella conservative because it's lots of farmers and lots of Latinos. So we're like Catholic, and so we have lots of anti-abortion feelings in my area. So when we get down to in GOP, they trust. I kind of relate to that because that's what I see in my communities. But let's go on to the Battle of the Burbs. Camille, can you tell me what that article is about? Did you read that one?
I like glanced over that one.
Okay. Who actually read Battle of the Burbs? None of you guys read it?
I read some of it. I just remember that one of the mayor was in some Christian rock group, and that stuck with me. And I just remember that it was very, very religious, like the town.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I'll kind of give you guys the setup, and we can discuss from there. So, Olathe is a town outside of what was do you remember what big city they were outside of, Sandra?
I know they're in Kansas.
Okay, so it's probably Kansas City, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what it makes. I love those like big cities and stuff like that have the same name as the state. Because I'm like, oh
yeah. I just remember it was in Johnson County.
yeah, and so I think they were both Olathe and Kansas City were in the same county. But so Olathe is a suburb, and what are some suburbs usually for when it comes to relation between a suburb and a big city? Let's say Elk Grove and Sacramento. What is Elk Grove mainly used for? Is it used to have businesses and stuff like that, or is it more of a bedroom community, somewhere where you go sleep and that's where your kids go to school and stuff like that?
Yeah, it's definitely more like family-oriented stuff.
Yeah. And so, and would you say that Elk Grove is more conservative than Sacramento?
Yes.
Yeah. and so, what we're going to see in Olathe is going to be very mirrored in Elk Grove, because they found in Kansas City that it was really diverse and had lots of different ideas going on and everything. And so people living there, they were like, I don't know if I am totally about this ideology. So I'm going to move to a little suburb where it's more, where I know it's more religiously conservative and have factors like that, rather than being in the big bad city. And so by having people move here with that kind of mindset, what kind of community do you think is being built within Olathe?
A very conservative, religious-focused one.
Yeah, because they're like, oh, they all have that kind of same mindset of, oh, I'd rather raise my family outside of the city, where we can control certain things. I know there's a section in the Battle of the Burbs where they talk about education. and I'm pretty sure they don't teach evolution in Olathe, and because they were able to control the curriculum in their county rather than having to follow the curriculum standards of the city. I highly recommend that you guys read this over. He really uses these 5 articles, which is why I'm going over them with you guys. And so I'm just going to kind of leave it at that and just leave it at the setup, because I'm not going to do the work for you. And if you haven't read, then we can't really have an analytical discussion. So let's move on to in GOP they trust. So who read this one? Did anybody read it?
Kinda.
Kinda? What did you get from it, Elizabeth?
We're just talking about like how a lot of Republicans were coming to California. Like there was a lot of Republican cities, I think, or no, the Republicans were taking the like the cities, and like we're talking about like their values and all that.
Yeah, there was like the little towns and stuff like that. Republicans kind of took over and stuff like that, so they could have their ideologies be more present. And who were like the people that were in Marietta? Do you remember?
Who were the people? What?
Do you remember like the types of people that were living in Marietta? Like, were they people who were part of the military?
They talked a little bit of that, and they also talked about religion or something like that.
They were military based.
Yeah.
A lot of the people.
And so because of that, usually people who are in the military are more conservative because the Conservative Party usually promotes the military and gives funding for them. And so they were more attracted to Republicanism because they're like, oh, these are the people that care about us. The Democrats, they don't really care about us. They, think that we shouldn't be over there. We shouldn't be doing this stuff. And so that's one reason why they were attracted to it. So what aspects of their life kind of reinforced like this conservative ideology that they brought with them to Marietta? Do you remember how like the article started? What was going on in the town?
Oh my God.
The Veterans Day Parade.
Yeah. And what was going on in the Veterans Day Parade, Betty?
Well, they were honoring the veteran. They were on the planes. It was it says form vintage military planes soared above the 2nd annual Veterans Day Parade here.
Yeah, and I mean, when they describe it, do they describe it being a very empty celebration, or was the whole town out?
No, it's the whole town out.
Yeah, and so if the whole town is doing the Veterans Day Parade, what do you think what effect do you think that brings?
Well, I mean, the whole idea of the Republican Party are more so promotive to the military. It's something that if a town honors Veterans Day the way they do, and the town goes and basically supports it with their presence, I would say it's a kind of like, not necessarily like, it's a bit of an advocation to to being conservative, not necessarily like go conservative, like it's nothing like that. It has nothing to do with like politics, but it's kind of like it's got like its little intent.
Yeah, and like I mean, by everybody going out, they're kind of creating a culture of patriotism. And patriotism is usually very closely linked to the Conservative Party, because it's usually ultra patriotism that they do, and so they're creating a culture that reinforces their beliefs.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. Do you think these voters are permanently lost to Democrats? And if not, what do you think Democrats might do to appeal to these sort of voters?
Well, to those, like, for example, in this case, to those who are very for, like, military and veterans, I think in order to have more of their support, the Democratic Party has to do something sort of like that to show that support that the Republicans do. Meanwhile, if they don't do so, I don't think there's going to be change. It's going to stay how it is.
Yeah.
What?
Oh, no, never mind.
Okay.
I was gonna say something, but yeah, never mind. No, it's gonna be like something similar to what she just said, but
Okay.
yeah.
If you're good with it, then all right. How do you guys feel about this article? Feel pretty good?
Yeah.
But you're shaking your head. Betty?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, good? Okay,
I was
sorry.
going to say, yeah.
Okay, I saw shaking, so I was like, I just said nodding.
Sorry.
You're okay. All right. Now let's move on to story time. And so I believe there were 4 stories in this article. What were they? What was the first one?
It was about how people, almost like the American dream, like you can do anything as long as you set your mind to it.
Yeah. And so the American dream, I'm pretty sure it is, because they all have like these little titles and stuff like that. And I want to identify that for you guys, because he might ask you to describe these stories for him. Is it called the American dream?
Yeah, it's called The Triumphant Individual.
Yes. Okay. So, triumphant individual, and that is about the American who goes and pulls himself up by his bootstraps and goes out and finds his fortune and is able to get his white picket fence, his job, and 2.5 kids, and everything. And that's usually kind of used to promote American nationalism and everything, because it's like, hey, we can do it. We're Americans. We're Americans. We're Americans, not Americans. Sorry, lame jokes. And so it's a very positive story. What is another story that they use?
The second one?
Yeah.
It was about how like community works together, and they had like examples of like the suffrage movements and civil rights movements and all of that stuff.
And what was that one called exactly?
Let me look that one up. The Benevolent Community.
Yeah. And so can somebody elaborate more on this besides Angelina?
What did you say, sorry?
The benevolent community. And I'm asking, what would be examples of this? Betty, are you talking? Because you're muted.
Sorry, I always do that. Kind of like what the guy did in the first reading. Oh my God, what's his name?
Rankin?
Like when he moved to Idaho. That's kind of how I describe it. Moving. I describe that little story more like because it talks about how similar, like it says, like similar religious images and like stuff like that. So it's just like talking about one place that has the same beliefs. Like more, like a lot of these little stories have almost the same thing.
You're kind of on the right track, but benevolent community is a bit more complicated than that. Angelina, do you want to elaborate?
I know that they mentioned like Martin Luther King Jr. and like what he fought for, and the fact that like people come together if there's a necessary cause. That's a good thing about America. We can actually get stuff done if citizens unite.
Yeah. I'll pull it up and let's see. Okay. Especially it's trying to show that, hey, we are this great model of morality.
Mm-hmm.
We are benevolent, meaning we are good, and so everyone should model themselves after us because we have democracy down, and look at how good we are doing, kind of thing. And so it's like the triumphant individual, it's there to promote nationalism, but more in a community level rather than the individual level, which was triumphant individual. And so then the next story is the mob at the gates. And so can somebody explain to me what that might be?
I think it talked about like fighting against like was it like it talked about like Indians, it talked about like immigration and stuff like that, and then
It's the fight
and then
against the
Mexican.
borders.
Yeah.
So I think you guys are thinking a little too literal. That is part of it. But it's more so creating a us and a them. And the them is trying to get in to our stuff. And this applies both to immigration, like you said, to the Indians and the Mexicans who are trying to come in and to get work. They're saying, oh, there's this mob who's trying to come in and take our jobs. And an international example would be, oh, those communists are trying to infiltrate our good capitalist community. And so that's something we need to fight.
Oh, that makes more sense because like I didn't understand the first sentence when it said the United States is the beacon of light of virtue in the world of darkness. It says referring everything else as the darkness.
Yeah, and so that's what it's trying to be, is like, oh, we're this good place, and all the badness is trying to come in and get our goodness. That makes sense? Okay. And so, what is the rot at the top? Let's remember the Occupy Wall Street movement? What was their message? Before your guys' time?
Was it?
Well, during the Occupy Wall Street movement, they were saying, hey, the 1%, remember that? The 1% holds all the wealth. They are rotten because they have created this economic inequality and disadvantage us because they have accumulated capital that they're not even utilizing and using to the detriment of the 99%. So they're saying there's a rot in the powerful elites that needs to be fixed. This happened in the 20s and 30s with monopolies. People were like, monopolies are bad because there's this elite that are joining together to basically suck out all the money from common citizens. And so this is used to create political movements, like we said, the Occupy movement and the anti-monopoly movements. And so I'd like you guys to think of when you've heard the triumphant individual story used by politicians and stuff like that in America. I know they give examples in the essay.
They talk about Bush towards the end, how he used it.
How did Bush use it?
Honestly, I didn't get that far in the essay. I'm just now seeing it.
Well, read it aloud for us then, if you have gotten to that section.
Hold on one second. I literally just lost it. Hold on.
No problem.
Was it that he's like making like his businesses are making a lot of money or something like that, and then or something like that? It was like, and then it was just saying how like he's trying to say that everyone has like an equal opportunity. We really don't, or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how they said it though.
Yeah. I think we'll wait for Angelina to give you an assist on that.
Okay.
Do you want me to read it aloud?
Yeah, just read the relevant part.
All right. Bush's triumphant individual, meanwhile, is a property owner who achieves the dignity and security of economic independence by getting rich off his assets, as Bush put it in his second inaugural. The ownership society is intended, as Bush explained, to make every citizen an agent of his or her own destiny. In this universe, there is no more need for national benevolence. In fact, Social Security, which has been the very symbol of FDR's benevolent community, is to be turned into private accounts that triumphant individuals can use to gain personal wealth. In Bush's retelling, the benevolent community, or I guess that already goes into the other section.
Yeah, so what is Bush doing through his triumphant individual narrative?
I guess he's making it seem like everyone has their own like business and is making their own profit, when in reality that is not happening to everyone.
He's trying to use it to argue that we don't need to have the benevolent community policies that FDR put in, like Social Security, Medicare, and stuff like that.
So he's saying that everyone can take care of themselves, basically.
Yeah, because they're triumphant individuals. They don't need a benevolent community.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah. You have to have the individual and the community. You can't have one without the other. But that was his argument. And so when you guys go over this essay, because obviously you guys have only kind of glanced at it now, so pay attention to how they're utilizing the stories, because that will really help your understanding of the story. Okay, so do we have the last one? That was an infograph, right? Okay, yeah. So that one doesn't. You can glance at it, but it's not going to really be tested on. So we have the political parties. Did you guys did you have any questions from the elections section that you wanted to go over before I let you go? Because I know we weren't able to start that discussion because I really wanted to go through these 4 articles. You guys good on elections?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Well, if you're good, then I'm good. So I will let you guys go. I mean, it's 6:50, so have a very happy Halloween, whether you are doing nothing or planning on getting more candy tomorrow when it's on sale, like I do, or what. Either way, have a great day, guys. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.